Charles, I appreciate you taking the time to sit here and chat a little bit. Just the recent passing of C.T. Vivian and John Lewis on the same day, no less. And I know you knew both of them. You were there with John on the buses, the two buses that left from D.C. That were violently attacked on the Freedom Rides. And I was hoping you might be willing to just share a little bit of your reflections on John and on C.T. Vivian.
Well, I talk about John first because he did start off with us on May 4th. And John had just come from Nashville, and they had been very successful in their sit-in campaign. And they had a very diverse campaign because they not only had the lunch counters, but they also included theaters and hospitals and things like that. So he was jacked up like the rest of us were. I came from Atlanta where we had been successful in our movement. So here we are. I was 18 and he was 20 years of age at the time, but we still were basically kids. But John there was a uniqueness about him in the fact that he had a passion that journalists surpass anyone of his age. And it really came to play when he got to Rock Hill, South Carolina. And he was with Albert Bigelow. They were the testers for that particular day. And they got beat up pretty badly by the Klan. But while the beating was taking place, the cops came. So they confronted John and they said, well, do you want to press charges? And John says, no, we're not about punishing people. We're after the system of segregation. And this must have had a very powerful impact on these guys because several years later, after John became a politician and became a congressman, one of the men sought him out, and then he apologized to John. And that was the first time, and really the only time that anyone who attacked a Freedom Rider ever apologized. And on the Oprah show, they reenacted that what had occurred. But they became friends after that. But like I say, the impact that John had on him, the fact that he was caught red-handed, and John chose not to pursue criminal action, but to say that, hey, we're after the system, and we understand why you act the way that you did, because we all lived in this. We all who are Southerners, we understand that was a society that we lived in. So, he was acting according to the way he was supposed to, and we were not. We were supposed to have been compliant and obedient, and we were not. And that's what caused a lot of the confusion. John had to, he sought medical treatment, and he had to leave to do an interview. And that's why he wasn't with us in Anniston and in Birmingham the following 2 days. So went into Atlanta on the 13th of May. And then, after meeting with Dr. King, and Dr. King had warned us that terrible things awaited us in Alabama. And we had hoped that Dr. King would have accompanied us. But he not only didn't want to come, but he said that you probably shouldn't go either. So, but we had a job to do, and we went on into Alabama. And of course, everybody knows about the bus that was burned to the ground.
That was Hank Thomas's bus, right?
Yeah, that's the Greyhound bus. And the other bus, the Trailway that we were on. And the sad thing about it, there's a lot of images that happened with the Greyhound bus. They even found some more last year, 2 years now, that no one knew about. It was about 20 other photographs of the burning of the bus in Anniston.
Oh, wow.
But today, we have found no images of what happened in Anniston to the Trailway bus. And likewise, there's only one image that survived the beating in Birmingham. But the Klan was very strategic in eliminating any type of publicity, whether it was audio or video, it didn't matter. If you were trying to record what was happening, they attacked you.
Yeah.
So, and they were very efficient in eliminating a lot of the history that happened on those days.
Yeah, going after the press first, and then.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they knew that, that's evidence. But see, it's ironic though. The image of me in Birmingham when we went to trial, they had this picture, and it had been blown up to a larger than I'd ever seen it at that time. And they identified everybody in the photo.
Oh, yeah.
And you could see that we were outnumbered. James Peck and I, we didn't stand a chance. It was just too many of those guys. But, we went through the shenanigans of having a trial. And of course, they were exonerated. No one was ever punished.
Everyone in every white assailant was identified in the photo, and yet not a single one was prosecuted.
Not a one. And it was frustrating to go there because at the time you still there was no place for black people to stay. So I stayed at Reverend Abernathy's house. There were the Freedom Riders were coming through. This is the same time that they were in the church in Montgomery.
In the First Baptist Church,
I was in Montgomery at the same. Yeah, I was in Montgomery at the same time, but I was across town. And Stokely Carmichael came through there, and a whole bunch of folks who later, got to be involved. And it was really a good time to be there because the Abernathys, they were like a wait house, for all of Freedom Riders coming through and getting ready to go on to those who were going on into Jackson.
Right. Yeah,
so CT was involved in the ones going into Jackson.
Yeah.
He'd been involved in he was also involved in the Nashville sit-ins and stuff. But CT was he helped a lot of the people who were incarcerated at Parchman because I guess in their daily beatings of the Freedom Riders, they weren't supposed to draw any blood. But there's occasions CT mentions, he said the fact that they hit him and they drew blood, and it frightened them because they know they weren't supposed to do that. And
you're talking about inside the prison.
Inside the prison, yeah.
Right.
So he said that after that, I think they minimized beating the prisoners, and they went to other things like taking their matches and their toothbrushes and other kind of punishment. But they did stop the beatings, and I think that's because of CT. And he was very articulate. He's very articulate. And I could see the confrontation with CT and the guards. You got some with an IQ of maybe 100, and here you got almost a genius IQ. So it was a very good conversation.
Now Hank says, Hank Thomas says about the hunger strike that he didn't end the hunger strike.
Yeah, it was there was the problem with Stokely and the hunger strike, and some of the others, and getting on the same page. I think was a little bit difficult because.
Hey, can you hold 1 second? It's asking me to admit you into the meeting. 1 second. I'm just going to hit admit. Okay, nothing's. Now the hunger strike I'm talking about is in Parchman. So Stokely wasn't in Parchman. Oh, now it's added you a second time.
So the second time?
No, it's adding you right. I don't know if you can see the screen, but it's adding you.
Oh, I have it. Okay, I need to close out my other computer.
Oh, okay. So on the second computer?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go close out that other computer?
She's closing out now.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead.
So, there was you had such a diverse group there, and some of the stories that come out of there, are very unique, I guess. And also it just shows how the personality of the persons that were arrested.
Yeah. Such a unique group.
Yeah.
After the Freedom Rides, did yours and John's paths cross? And
oh yes, John. When he decided to run for Congress, I volunteered to be on his staff. C.T. Martin was his campaign chairman, and I had some talents, I guess, that I offered because I was in electronics, and I know that a lot of times when you're doing mobile, say you're on the road, you need an amplifier that doesn't require, being plugged into the wall. And they gave me some very unique assignments, and it was a hard decision to make because Julian Bond was his opponent, and see, I had worked with Julian in the Atlanta movement. But I knew that John was, for me, was a better person for that particular job.
Yeah.
And he was truly a dark horse candidate, but we were successful in getting him elected. That was the first time I foray into working with anyone in politics. But after that, I spent most of my time working with women candidates for various offices because in Georgia, for some reason at that time, they were having a very, very, very difficult time of getting women elected.
Yeah. What's your fondest memory of John?
Well, I just think that, he was always very pragmatic, and he had a large sense of humor. Um, and every evening we used to have an after action of what would happen during the day. And John was, he would always elaborate what happened, because we didn't know what was happening on the other bus. We didn't hear from buses, but the thing was to find out what tactics worked, what went well, and what didn't go well, so that we could improve our, our performance as the ride continues. But he was very, he was not a very talkative person until you got him going, and then it's like, wow. But he was just a friendly person, and yet his determination. I mean, this guy, not just with the Freedom Route, that was actually a start, but no
Right.
one would know this guy. He gave a lot of blood and a lot of. He gave up an awful lot for the fight for freedom. I mean, I don't know if anyone, even Dr. King, never went to the same level of sacrifice that John did.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this thinking of C.T. Vivian, I mean, the work that he was doing and his involvement with SCLC and everything else.
And he was much older, CT. CT was, he was like he was organized, and he was articulate, and he was knowledgeable, and he was not afraid of anything. Because I mean, some of his confrontations he had there during the voting rights thing in Selma. A lot of people could not have taken that and still continue to fight.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what everyone was going up against, but particularly, I mean, you think about those iconic images of for example, of John on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, getting his head beaten in and cracked and stuff. I mean, the fight for the right to vote, for basic human dignity, that's supposed to be protected by our Constitution. And here he's just trying to make sure that that truly everyone is treated equally. To go to the lengths that he went to do that. I mean, to me, he's like a modern day founding father. If we were to make a list of founding fathers today of this country, I mean, he has to be one of those.
Yeah, his impact will be felt for years. And when it comes to voting and voting rights, I mean, John should be the poster child for that. But one of the things I ask people when I'm talking about John, I asked them, I said, why did they walk down the center of the Edmund Pettus Bridge? And, at one point they were walking on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
But they have, the sidewalk has about a waist-high railing there. And you got the Alabama River right below. And I think in one of the things I heard this week that where Jose asked John, could he swim? He just says no. So that's one of the reasons they moved towards the center, because, I mean, if they had been charged, the horses had charged them, that railing was so low that a lot of them would have fallen into the river.
Yeah. Although John was pretty short, he might have been pretty safe.
Yeah, well.
Although he might have had to jump. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's our takeaway from from the life of John and CT, Reverend Vivian, and what should be our takeaway from this? What should we learn? What should we do with this legacy?
Well, their legacy extends far beyond the freedom rides, but I think you have to put it in perspective. The freedom rides happened early in '61, and I think it set the stage for a lot of the subsequent demonstrations. But I think they got the medal there. They realized not only that they can make a difference, but the thing is, the freedom rides was a very diverse group of people. I mean, there were a lot of white people and black people working together, and I don't think any other movement for integration that ever had that mix before. I mean, King had the people in Montgomery, but they didn't have that kind of composition. And in Nashville, they had a few whites. Georgia, I think we had maybe one or two whites who helped us out. But this was where you had a whole scale, a grouping of black and whites working together, male and female. And I think that's one of that they took away too, that helped them, because they had a coalition. If you look at CT and John, they were able to forge allies with a lot of other people that a lot of other civil rights organizers have not been able to do. And even today, I mean, John has a strong ties with the Jewish community here in Atlanta, and as well as elsewhere. So, and as well as CT, even though they were, basically Baptist preachers.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things. So what I heard was, even though that John's, it wasn't announced until the evening, but that John and CT actually died about the same time.
Yeah, it was very close in time, but the media, I mean, the family said that they wanted CT to get his props.
Right.
Before they.
Oh, understandably so. But
Yeah.
I think it's fitting that these friends, that bond that they have, that, that they would pass at the same time. What are you going to miss most?
Well, I hope they have a grand 60th anniversary. I wish it could have been around for that, because if we pull off what we're trying to do, I think it will be not only fitting for those who were participants, but also to educate and illuminate a lot of the young people and other Americans to what the Freedom Ride was about. Because, like I say, it did happen first. Now, the memory of Bloody Sunday and Freedom Summer, all those stick out because they were closer, and there was, of course, there were deaths and all the other stuff. But the tactics the Freedom Riders employed also was important because it kept us alive, because of the things that we didn't do, not because of the things that we did. Right. Yeah, they had the opportunity and the time to kill us because they were given free reign. But somehow, with the blessings of God Almighty, we were able to just have a beating, but we didn't have any deaths.
Yeah. Do you recall your last conversations with John or with CT?
Well, the last time with John, it was at an awards ceremony in downtown Atlanta, and Hank was there, and he called everybody, all the Freedom Riders up. And we kind of hugged on stage, and Andy was giving a dialogue at the time, but it was just kind of one of those kind of, my wife took a good picture with him. And I guess my biggest problem, I'm not a very person who take a lot of pictures. And, all through the years, I realized that the opportunities, I realize now it's a lot easier with selfies and cell phones. But, I'm like this, I meet you, and what my memories of you is what occurred, not where I taking pictures. But I'm starting to do that now, so my kids know that, yeah, I met all those guys. Well, see, when I met John and CT and Dr. King, they weren't famous then. They were just working to get to the stature that they required. But they were just ordinary folks, just like you and I. Mm-hmm. But they were working on something that was much more provide them with that kind of status, later in life.
Well, they're ordinary folks, but they extraordinary spirit, an extraordinary example for us, and how we should be living our lives, and the fight for what's right, even when it's not easy.
Right. It's never been easy. Yeah, and your mom knows that quite well. It's, but it takes the grit that she has and all the others. And we're such a unique community. I don't care what you say about everybody else. Freedom Riders are a weird bunch, but we still stick together.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Charles, I truly appreciate you taking your time just to reflect a little bit on John and CT, Vivian, and just we're going to miss them, but grateful to have known them. And
it helps the healing. This day alone helps the heal, because I was a basket case earlier in the week, and because I just couldn't comprehend, Lord, why,
right.
We realize that we have work to do.
Yeah.
So as long as the rest of us are alive, there are things that we can do and should do, if nothing more than to talk to the young kids and let them know what the story is and how they can be beneficial. See, a lot of times young people feel that they can't do anything, and I encourage them, you can change the world. Yeah. And they have the ability to change the world. And we have to impart that determination within them that, hey, you're not helpless. You can do these things. You can do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a handful. Really, when it's all said and done, it's a handful of Freedom Riders. Just a few hundred of you. And all those individuals, just a fraction of the population, led to the further liberation of millions of people, and continues to have that impact today. It's just, that's what it's about. Again, to me, it's that living up to the fullest of our creed, that all men are created equal, that we endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, right? Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that's an ideal, that we haven't always measured up to, but that we continue and should always, be fighting towards.
We've got a goal to shoot for, and I think that I think in time, as when people get to know each other and they talk to one another, they realize that we are more alike than we are different. And Hank and I are two freedom riders that left the freedom rides and ended up in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And people often ask, well, why did we do so? Well, we still have a love for this country, and we fought for this country on both sides, as for our civil rights, but also our country calls, and we answer the call. Yeah. So this is why I won't be deterred when I want something that this country gives all its citizens. I'm there, not with my hand out, but saying, hey, send me, and mm-hmm. I didn't waver then, and I won't waver now.
Amen. Well, thank you again, Charles.
Well, it's my pleasure.
God bless.
God bless.